Every morning, the world moves like a song. Cars hum, clocks tick, hearts beat in rhythm. But one morning, everything stopped. Not slowly, not gradually, just stopped. Except for one person. A 12-year-old boy named Evan Cole. Evan woke to sunlight pouring through his window. He heard nothing, no voices, no birds, not even the wind. When he looked outside, a dog was frozen mid-jump, a cyclist hung in mid-air, and the town clock's second hand didn't move. He whispered, "Mom." He ran downstairs. She stood by the stove, frozen mid-stir. The eggs never sizzled, the kettle never whistled. He touched her shoulder. Nothing, no breath, no blink, just stillness. Evan's heart raced. What's happening? Then a strange thought crossed his mind. He could do anything. At first it was thrilling. He ran through the streets laughing, taking candy from the store, trying on clothes, sitting in cars, and shouting into the silence just to hear his own echo. He skateboarded down the empty highway, wind in his face, arms wide like a bird. The world was his playground. No rules, no limits, no time. For hours, he explored, touching, running, laughing. For the first time, he felt infinite. But as the sun hung frozen in the same spot, the silence began to grow heavy. The thrill of freedom gave way to a chilling, vast emptiness. He tried to talk to people, hoping for even a flicker of response. No reply. He shouted at the sky until his throat was raw. No answer. He sat beside his frozen mother and whispered, "Please wake up." But she remained a statue, a perfect, unmoving memory of a moment he couldn't get back. He realized he could eat, move, breathe, but he couldn't live. Because living requires more than just motion. It requires someone else moving with you. It requires shared smiles, conversations, and even arguments. Anything but this suffocating silence. Night never came. The sun remained frozen above the rooftops in a state of eternal noon. Shadows stopped shifting. The vibrant flowers in the park didn't sway. Even the waves of the nearby lake were still, captured in the middle of their crash against the shore. Evan dipped his hand into the water. It didn't move. He could feel its chill, but it was like touching cold, hard glass instead of life. He sat there for hours, or maybe it was days. Time meant nothing now. There was no sunrise to mark a new beginning, no sunset to signal rest. He couldn't tell how long he'd been alone, adrift in this silent, static ocean of a world. The loneliness was no longer a feeling. It was the air he breathed, the space he occupied. One night, or what felt like night in his heart, Evan began talking to himself, just to break the oppressive quiet. Maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe this is a test. His voice echoed eerily through the empty streets, and then, faintly, he heard something. A heartbeat, a rhythmic, soft thump in the distance. He followed it, his own heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. It led him through the park, past the frozen trees, to an old clock tower at the center of town. Inside, the massive gears were locked still, except for one, which twitched faintly. And from that small sound came a whisper, a voice that seemed to come from the very air around him. "Why are you still running?" He turned, and there stood an old man in a long gray coat, his eyes calm, as if he had seen eternity pass by. "Who are you?" Evan asked, his voice trembling. The man smiled. "Some call me time, others call me what they've lost." Evan's eyes widened. "You stopped the world." The man nodded gently, not to punish, but to teach. Evan frowned, confused. "I don't understand." The man stepped closer. "You have everything right now. Freedom, quiet, power. Yet you're unhappy. Why?" Evan looked down, the answer finally clear in his own heart. He whispered, "Because no one's here to share it." The man's eyes softened with understanding. "And that, my boy, is the lesson. Moments are meaningless when they belong to only one person." The old man held out his hand. "Would you like to start the world again?" Evan hesitated. A new fear gripped him. "What if it never stops for me again? What if I forget?" The man smiled faintly. "Then live each moment like it could." Evan nodded, tears finally streaming down his face. "Yes, please." The man turned toward the giant clock, placed his hand on its frozen gears, and whispered, "Time belongs to those who cherish it." A thunderous tick echoed through the air. Then came the wind, then sound, then motion. The waves crashed again. Birds scattered from the trees. The dog barked mid-jump and landed safely. The town's clock resumed its steady, comforting rhythm. Evan gasped as the world breathed once more. He ran home crying, threw his arms around his confused mother, and whispered, "You have no idea how long I've missed you." She laughed, ruffling his hair. "What are you talking about? You've only been gone 10 minutes. He smiled through his tears. "Yeah, 10 minutes. From that day on, Evan changed. He stopped rushing through mornings. He helped his mother cook instead of running off to play. He walked to school slower, noticing the faces of people he passed, the sounds of laughter, the simple beauty of a world in motion. Every tick of the clock reminded him that each second was a gift. Sometimes, he'd visit the clock tower, place his hand on the old wood, and whisper, "Thank you for stopping, so I could start again." Years passed. Evan grew up and became a teacher. He often told his students, "Do you know what time really is? It's not just numbers on a clock. It's the people who make those numbers matter." One evening, as he sat with his family, his daughter looked up at him and asked, "Dad, if time could stop, what would you do?" He smiled softly, pulling her close. I'd hold your hand and wait for it to start again. The clock in the hallway ticked softly, steady, alive. Time never truly stops, it only waits for us to notice it. Because life's value lies not in the moments themselves, but in the people we share them with. Thanks for watching. If this story touched you, please consider liking and subscribing for more. We'll see you in the next one.